Welcome back to Too Many Books, 14th of September, here on the Radium Theatre Productions YouTube channel. My name's Dylan, and today we've got 8 books, and it's, very good haul this week. So let's get into it with the first issue that I just friggin' was so excited for, which was Wonder Woman 779, the finale of the Afterworlds arc by Clunan and Conrad. This, there's a couple of issues after Wonder Woman left the kind of Norse mythology. I'm sorry, not the North, the Valhalla, and moving to like the female Justice League world. And then kind of the essentially it kind of was a little bit like all over the place. So she was kind of like chasing Janice through the multiverse, essentially. And the way that they ended this, though, I really can't get over like how like incredibly cool it was. Essentially, you have the side of Janice which looks to the future, the side of Janice that looks to the past, and they kind of tie all of that together. Ratatask and her like very very sexy boyfriend decide to kind of like there's this beautiful arc essentially where all of the characters are kind of it pays off the 9 issues that we've been kind of reading in the story, or the 10 issues in this story. Really, really enjoyed it. Also has an Adventures of Young Diana, finished off that arc. That to me kind of was a little bit too long, but it's just kind of like, Diana learns that, her mum wasn't perfect, but she still loves her mother. Like, it was a bit much, but I don't want to get into too many spoilery things, except to say the way they land this is very good, and I really enjoyed it. Really worth checking out. The next book on the list was Justice League, number 67. This is Brian Michael Bendis continuing kind of his DC work, and it links in with Checkmate, which was his event, which was supposed to kind of tie in to the 5G, and it's kind of been retooled now to still kind of deal with the investigation of Leviathan and this, that, the other thing, but isn't as big in the kind of like, for example, in this we have essentially an invasion of Earth and the Justice League fighting them. Meanwhile, kind of there's a little bit of like Oliver Queen, who's also in Checkmate, and Black Canary kind of like talking and contextualizing the broader Checkmate story. The introduction of Lois Lane's brother, and just kind of like picking up with the threads from event Leviathan with the death of Sam Lane, and kind of the whole Bendis kind of like this. I have this problem with kind of differentiating between a lot of his stories, because like, so say for example with his Superman and his Action Comics, both of them, like I like one of them was the one that had like Rose and Thorn in it a little bit. The other one was kind of like more focused on Rogel Zar, I'm gonna guess, but like mostly they were kind of like, here's this giant big epic story that I'm telling, and everything kind of links in. And whereas this does feed into the Checkmate stuff, it very much just feels like it's kind of like you could get all of these panels and kind of like get the Checkmate book, and outside of the difference from Medivh's art, you could kind of like little scenes, and I like that, while still having the Justice League book be, and the Justice League just like fighting like aliens. Also has a Justice League Dark story in it from Ram V. I really liked his Tower of Babel thing with the Jorge Luis Borges. I think it's like amongst the most clever and unique things that I've read in comic books, this year. And this arc is now kind of dealing with like Merlin and kind of magic and stuff, and it's still really good. Ramvi's he's really great at creating worlds and doing things that you haven't seen before. But I'm not. It's still like he's coming off of doing oh my god, that's the coolest thing that I've ever like what a ridiculously awesome concept, to this is still good. This is still good. But yeah, really worth checking out. But the Checkmate stuff is it's if you're not following all that stuff going back to kind of Event Leviathan and then Leviathan Dawn and then into Checkmate, a lot of it's kind of just like a little bit of window dressing. But anyways, continuing on from that, we have the wonderful I Am Batman coming in here from John Ridley. This is the first issue of Jace Fox being Batman outside of Future State. So he's beautiful. Look at that fucking Greg Capullo cover with the Jace Fox mask. Very cool stuff. But so this is I really like John Ridley's idea for the Jace Fox Batman. I think his backstory is kind of cool with kind of having essentially Lucius Fox trying to cover up that he committed vehicular manslaughter, and him kind of going, well, that's not justice, and kind of having this balance, or this kind of tension between the African American experience of policing and race and systemic racism and things, whereas on the other hand, kind of having this, well, once you have financial means, you have the ability to be able to kind of use lawyers to essentially put yourself above the law of other people. And this is essentially Jace Fox. We get introduced to what he's done with the Batman prototype suit that he found at the end of Second Son, and essentially it's he's got these graphite things, and he's I'm not going to go out there with freaking batarangs and all this kind of stuff. I'm out there, I'm just going to be a brawler Batman, because people need to know that Batman is a real person. He's out there in the streets. He's not dead. Picking up from that Future State Alpha, with the kind of announcements coming out that Batman's dead and stuff from Oracle. It's really cool. I really, really like the series. He kind of he tells a bunch of teenagers to stop tagging a house, and then congratulates himself, which is really something that kind of, you're somewhat rich and somewhat privileged. You kind of go, I'm doing good. But yeah, we've seen his kind of background in Special Forces a little bit in the Second Son series, and yeah, I'm interested to see how the racial dynamics, which we saw a little bit more of in Future State, play out, in terms of that. There's a conversation in which the cops kind of talk amongst themselves about what their responsibilities are, and how the relationship that they have to the community, and how the community sees them, and kind of counterposing that with the magistrate and stuff. Ultimately, it's still kind of I started thinking of the Kevin Smith kind of scene, the scene in Chasing Amy, where it's kind of it's not this kind of great radical kind of if you look at the Black Panther series, the Ta-Nehisi Coates, it's still, as I said, the tension in between wealth and class with race and oppression, and how those kind of things balance each other. I think it's a really interesting thing that we're going to get to see over the course of this series. My thought is potentially, if we see Jace getting exposed to fear toxin. He's got this mask to stop himself. I mean, mask. I should cover my mouth when I'm on camera. But he's got a mask to kind of like make him less vulnerable to the Joker. Sorry, not the Joker's toxin. The Scarecrow fear toxin. And be interesting to see if that fails, and to see a kind of kind of like nightmare type thing where we get to see a little bit into his psyche and how he's kind of like. I think by the end of this first arc of I Am Batman, you will see a change in how he is Batman, what he wants to do as Batman. And yeah, it's as I said, the art is beautiful, it's really well written, and it's really fun. And if you're following the Fear State event, kind of a little bit of stuff in there around the Magistrate and stuff like that. Speaking of Batman books, outside of the Fear State is the Future State. Future State shows up here in Batman Urban Legends. There's 4 tales in this. So we have a tale of Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond. Essentially, it's a really light spoiler because this was in the previews, but we see the death of Bruce Wayne. And this kind of conversation between him and Terry about, at what point Bruce no longer saw himself as the Batman that he set himself out to be, and how he sees in Terry, kind of the ability to redeem that. I thought that was really cool. It's got a little Future State story of just like Batgirl. She's just kind of eating, and she runs into like Jace. And it's like a couple of pages, but it's like a nice little vignette within that broader Future State world. And then there's Batman 666, which is the Damian Wayne kind of sells who sold his soul to the devil back in Grant Morrison's run many years ago. He essentially, I don't want to ruin it, but he finds a way to try and kind of like the devil comes to make due on his bet. And it turns out that the Damien has a few tricks up his sleeve. And then the final one is just like a DC 1 million, which was another event Morrison did many years ago again. And it's essentially the Batman with no name who is able to take on the he changes his suit into different versions of Batman and the Batfamily. He fights these kind of descendants of the Rogues Gallery on Pluto. There's lots of cool stuff, including he fights a descendant of Bane with the Nightfall suit, which was really cool. If you like, it was like, you see they're doing the thing. I really liked it. Future State, in like having this be a vignette, having this being like all of these stories within these like minis of this book, which is up to this point being like, there was a 6-part Chip Zdarsky Red Hood thing. It's like it had been a lot of stories that kind of like built and bit by bit, right? Having this be, here are 4 self-contained stories in different DC futures. If you've been putting off buying this because you're like, I don't want to it kind of forces you to buy all of the other issues, right? You don't want to get stuck in that. 100% get into this because it's really fun. Speaking of the Future State, though, we've also got Future State Gotham. This is the kind of like little anime-ish, a manga-ish series being done by Joshua Williamson and Culver, who's this like kind of friend of his, who's kind of like, Williamson kind of had this outline, and then his friend's doing kind of the plotting out essentially. This has Red Hood and Future State Batman they're essentially being controlled by these Haditech nanobots and fighting, and it's really cool. I really enjoyed I like how this is leaning into the fact that it's a manga. like there was a criticism when when Future State Gotham first started. It was like, this is just the pencils for like some 5G title, right? Which, you know, Williamson has said, I think that he was looking to leave around 5G. Like he was not going to be involved in stuff. So I think it's probably unfair to say that, like in terms of like, this is just a bunch of stories that were sitting around. Like maybe some of the Future State titles at the beginning of the year were that. But I think that this is slowly kind of finding its place as this. It's like it's a little manga series, a little bit of it's an alternative future. And yeah, I really dig it. It's pretty fun. I liked a lot of the Future State stuff. Going to be doing an omnibus show on Future State at some point, looking at the 52 different titles in Future State and kind of discussing them. But this kind of continuation of it, I really dig. It's really entertaining. We also have, continuing with the entertaining, is the Superman and the Authority, number 3. This is Grant Morrison doing just what he always does, which is weirdness. He's still setting up a team. Superman in this refers to John at some point being very optimistic, which is a kind of a conversation that John had with Superman in the Son of Kal-El book, where he's like, why didn't you do more and stuff? And because Superman doesn't have white like sideburns in the other series, I was like, is this an alternative world? What is this? Who knows? But essentially, they are setting themselves up as the Knights of the Round Table. It's really entertaining. It finishes off with the cliffhanger from last issue with Enchantress and essentially her and June Moon joining the team. And it's a shame that this is concluding in a month because they've like set all of this up. And I think I said this previously. Like this is a book that I can see tying into the whole war world thing that they're like, apparently that's what they're doing according to the Comic-Con panel. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see that 4th issue because it seems like it's got a lot of work to do. It's been really entertaining in terms of like we're putting this team together and da-da-da. But, usually when you read those, we're putting these team together books. That's usually like the first couple of issues and then the last few issues that they're dealing with the issue or whatever the problem is that brought the team together. Whereas Superman and the Authority is kind of bringing the team together and then that's the book. And I'm not quite sure what's going to happen in terms of long term, because from what I understand, Morrison's out at DC and is moving on to kind of create her own work in the kind of Twilight years. But yeah, not Twilight years. Grant Morrison, amazing. But still, very interesting. I really enjoyed it. If you haven't read the other issues of Superman and the Authority, you can probably pick this up. It's a lot of fun though. Getting the other issues, reading it. It's been a really enjoyable series. And as I said, losing Morrison, who I came into DC, I came into comic books with his Batman run like 15 years ago or whatever it was. And it's just cool to be like, seeing him still having this crazy creativity that we kind of saw in like, 52 and stuff, like that weirdness that really nobody else does. And certainly nobody else does as well as they do in mainstream comics anyway. Speaking of another segue, Titans United, which is it's not a tie-in, but it is kind of a tie-in to the HBO Max Titan series. Like nobody's saying that DC doesn't have like a really clear integrated media strategy, because we have this, we had the King Shark, they obviously do the covers and stuff. Scarecrow is in Titans at the exact same time that Fear State's going on. Lots of corporate synergy is what you could call it. But essentially the Teen Titans or the Titans go up against a group or this guy who's got all of the group's different skills. So is able to do Beast Boy, kind of transform, but is also able to do like Starfire's like hand kind of like fire thing, and all Superboy, the laser eyes, and how, why, interesting, set up mystery for future issues. It's really fun. If it is, they have essentially literally gone, these are all of the characters in the TV show. Would you like a TV show tie-in? Kind of. It is the TV show tie-in, kind of. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. First issue. Be interesting to see where it goes. But yeah, final book for the week. Joker number 7. This is from James Tynan, the 4th. This is the Jim Gordon but not book, where kind of Jim Gordon is going throughout Europe, hunting down the Joker in order to murder him, apparently. And we get to see he's essentially been arrested by the French police. He has a discussion with them, and they kind of they compare notes. Also has a punchline backup where Harper Row is still in prison looking for the witness who can kind of put a punchline in jail indefinitely. It's an interesting book. This, the punchline story has kind of like, I don't really know what, like, I like the idea of punchline. She's in, like, I'm not going to break out of prison. Like, I'm going to stay here, get exonerated, and then I can keep on doing crime things. And having somebody like go in there and be like, I shall stop you in this plan, I really dig. But yeah, anyway, kind of, it's very slow. It's very, I feel like I'm watching or reading like Oz, like watching Oz, or like one of the later series of Orange is the New Black. It's like, come on, we can speed this up a little bit. But yeah, the Joker number 7, Jim Gordon in Paris. Beautiful looking book, by the way. Very, very beautiful looking book. But anyways, as I said, those are the books for this week. The 14th of September. In terms of like titles that I would just say you have to go and get or go and check out for this week, I'm going to throw up I Am Batman number 1 and Wonder Woman 779. I, as I said, really dig the Jace Fox Batman. I'm really interested to see where they go with this story going forward. And if you're reading the other Bat titles, if you're one of those people who's just like, I'm just reading Batman and Nightwing, maybe Detective, I don't really care about all this Fear State stuff, you couldn't do worse than to pick this up just to kind of see what's going on out in the peripheries of that event. And then, yeah, as I said, seeing the way that they kind of landed the end of this Wonder Woman title was certainly really enjoyable. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. And yeah, I forgot my notes. I actually took notes. So there was a lot more umming than there should have been. Going to work on the umming. Less umming. Look, Steppenwolf. Boom. Anyways, DC Nation, we like a lot. Very much appreciate the, like, we're averaging like 10 viewers for the first 2 weeks of the series, which is like 10% of my subscribers who are tuning into this thing, which is kind of like, it's great. Thank you all for coming. Like, just send it to your friends or something. Anyways, enjoy your week. Can't wait to see next week when we return to more Future State. So not more Future State, more Fear State. And as I said, keep an eye out on this channel, because the Omniverse on Omnibus, which is my kind of produced comic book show where I do kind of like long form reviews of different runs and series. There's a few episodes of that I'm kind of like doing the reading and the research for. Those will be coming out in months to come. As I said, got one on Future State. Have one on Year of the Villain. So a complete, comprehensive kind of review of the Year of the Villain, kind of bridge between Scott Snyder's metal and death metal. And yeah, also going to be getting around at some point to a big Nightfall review. But thank you so much again for coming, hanging out with me, talking about comic books. And yeah, see you next week.